Hello, everyone. Hope you're fine, dear lovely IELTS candidates. This is Ralph, and today we're going to focus on listening part. All right. Have you ever listened to an IELTS listening audio and felt like you understood nothing, only to check your answers and realize you missed so many points? Don't worry, you're not alone. The truth is, most students lose marks not because they can't understand English, but because they don't know the tricks to catch the answers. So in this video, I'm going to reveal 8 powerful tricks that can completely change the way you approach IELTS listening. From predicting answers before you hear them to spotting keywords and avoiding the most common mistakes. These strategies are exactly what top scorers use. So if you want to stop missing easy points, listen smarter, and finally feel confident on test days, stick with me, because these 8 tricks are going to give you a real edge over other candidates. All right, so let's get started. Our first trick is synonym language. So what is synonym language? Synonym language is a trick that actually the correct answer almost always uses different words with the same meaning. For example, if the question says big, the audio might say huge. Now, let's take a look at sample question here. First of all, let's take a look at this question. Premier members are given priority during blank hours. So first of all, we know that we should listen to the number, maybe the number of hours or something related to hours. Now let's take a look at our transcript here. Premier membership is for professional people whose work commitments make it difficult for them to use the club during the day, and so LP gives booking preferences to Premier members at peak times. This means you will find it easier to book the sessions at times that suit you. All right, so here's the first trick, as I said, synonym language. We do not have any word like priority and also hours. How should we know? Here, 2 synonyms are used. Instead of given priority, in the transcript, it's gives booking preferences. So preference is the synonym for a priority. All right. And also instead of hours, times is used. And before times, as you can see, peak is used. So the correct answer is peak hours. All right. In this type of question, the correct answer will almost always be disguised in synonym language. So you should be aware of this trick. This is the most common trick in IELTS listening test. Our second trick is exact language. What does it mean? Sometimes a wrong answer will repeat words from the question, and it tries to trick you into choosing it. I will give you in an example, and you will know how exact language can be tricky most of the times. First, let's read the question together. The question is this: students entering the design competition have to A. Produce an energy-efficient design, B. Adapt an existing energy-saving appliance, C. Develop a new use for current technology. So we will see how in our transcript both design and appliance are exactly repeated, and they trick the candidate into choosing either of them. So first, let's read the transcript together. John. Hello, Professor. I'm John Wishart. I'm working on my entry for the global design competition. My tutor said you might be able to help me with it. And the professor says, yes, I got a copy of your drawings. Come in and tell me about it. What sort of competition is it? Well, it's an international design competition. So you see, design is repeated here, exactly the same word as in A. And we have to come up with a new design for a typical domestic kitchen appliance. So again, design is repeated here, and also appliance is repeated too. So this is a very common trick, exact language. So don't be tricked by the words repeated in the transcript, all right? You should look for the competition have to. So students have to do what? Have to do what thing? What kind of thing? The answer is this. It's here right at the end of what John says. It's an international design competition. We have to come up with a new design for a typical domestic kitchen appliance. So students have to develop a new use. A new use means a new design for current technology. And instead of current technology, it says here, a typical domestic kitchen appliance. So you see how this can be tricky. And something which is, let's say, very important here, you should wait to hear what are the obligatory things here, because the question asks have to. Students have to do what? So this is something that can definitely help you. All right, our next trick is delayed response. What is delayed response? You know, in delayed response, sometimes you will hear a long pause or delay before the correct answer comes. So don't panic. I have seen that so many IELTS candidates get panicked because they think that they have missed the correct answer. But this is the trick of delayed response, all right? So we will take a look at one sample question here. This is the question. Which two skills did Laura improve as a result of her work replacement? Two skills did Laura improve. Communication, design, IT, marketing, and organization. So the transcript might be a little bit long, but if you think that you have missed the, let's say, answer, don't get panicked. Most of the times it's at the end of this transcript. So we'll start the text. Tim starts, he says, "Hi Laura, could you spare a few minutes to talk about a work placement you did last summer? I'm thinking of doing one myself." "Hi, Tim, sure. Didn't you do yours at an environment services company?" "That's right. It's only a very small company and they needed someone to produce a company brochure, and I wanted to get some business experience because I'm interested in a career in occupational psychology in a business environment. It was good because I had overall responsibility for the project." So up to now, they haven't talked about any skills that Laura should improve. Okay, what kind of skills do you think you developed on the placement? This is something that is a little bit tricky, because when students hear the word develop, all right, and it means improve, so they try to just wait for the answer, all right? What kind of skills do you think you developed on the placement? I mean, apart from the ones you already had, did you have to do all the artwork for the brochure, the layout, and everything? And now Laura starts here. This is the trickiest part. "We hired the services of a professional photographer for that. I did have to use my IT skills to a certain extent because I cut and pasted text from marketing leaflets, but that didn't involve anything I hadn't done before." This is very important because this is actually not the answer. So whatever you hear, just wait for it. Wait for the remaining part. Sometimes this is the trickiest part that students get, let's say, panicked, and they just choose whatever they hear first. But as you can see here, but that didn't involve anything. All right? So wait for the remaining conversation. Then Tim says, "Do you think you got any better at managing your time and prioritizing things? You always used to say you had trouble with that." This is very important. Sometimes the answer is said by the other person, not the person herself that is talking about. All right? Here Tim says, "Do you think you got any better at managing your time and prioritizing things? You always used to say you had trouble with that." And Laura says, Oh, definitely. There was so much pressure to meet the project deadline. So this is one thing. All right. What's that? That's organization. That's exactly the same as prioritizing things. And she approves what Tim said. Oh, definitely. There was so much pressure to meet the project deadline. And I also got better at explaining things and asserting my opinions. So this is another field that, let's say, Laura improved. And what's that? That's communication skill. I also got better at explaining things and asserting my opinion. So you see how delayed response can sometimes be tricky. Our next trick is multiple answers. This is the, let's say, the part that I see so many IELTS candidates have problems. So be careful. Some questions require more than one answer, and they might mention all possibilities in the recording. So right now we're going to take a look at this trick. This is the question. Total distance of the first trip, blank kilometers. So here, there might be, because an IELTS candidate knows that here we should write the number of kilometers. So be sure that there are going to be so many numbers, right? So you should wait for what? For the total distance of the first trip. There might be, let's say, so many numbers, but only one is about total distance. So you should be careful about the total distance. And something which is also important here is that instead of total, you should there should be some let's say synonym. So be aware of this one. Let's read the transcript here. Andrea starts the conversation. So how many days are the trips and how much do they cost? The travel agent says the first one I told you about is a self-drive tour through California, which lasts 12 days and covers 2,020 kilometers. The shortest journey is 206 kilometers and the longest is 632 kilometers. So here, 206 and 632 kilometers are wrong answers. And they are thrown around to confuse you. But what is the total kilometer here? It's 2,020 kilometers because it says covers. So this covers means the total distance of the trip. Okay? Our next trick, which is also very common in IELTS listening part, is modification. What is modification? It's a statement that might change or correct itself, and only the final version is correct. Sometimes the speaker changes or corrects himself. For example, first he says something and then he corrects himself. So wait for the last part. Now, let's read the question here. For example, this is the question. Heard about company from. From where? So where do you usually hear about something? Maybe news, maybe social media, maybe newspaper, maybe on TV, maybe on leaflet. So there are, first we guess the answer and we wait for that in the listening transcript. And this is the transcript. Thank you. And can I ask you where you heard about word tours? This is very important. When you hear this one, right, you wait for the answer. And then the travel agent continues, from a friend, or did you see an advert somewhere? And here Andrea corrects the travel agent, no. So the speaker here corrects or modifies the wrong answer. I read about you in the newspaper. So this is something that when students, for example, hear, when an IELTS candidate hears friends, so he wastes his time writing friend and he misses newspaper here and he or she loses mark. So this is very important. Our next trick is word order. What is word order? This is a kind of question that the answer might appear in the recording in a different order than the question itself. So let's take a look at this type of question. For example, this is our question. Has sports blank and equipment on floors 1 to 3. So has sports. So in the blank, it is something related to sports. Okay, let's read our transcript here. I was invited to a special preview, and I can promise you this is the ultimate in sports retailing. Sports retailing. So students might sometimes think about retailing here, all right? Now, you should wait for that. The whole place has been given a new minimalist look with a company's signature colors of black and red. The first 3 floors, this is very important, 3 floors have huge range of sports clothing as well as equipment. In the question, first we had sports, all right? So after sports, we should wait for the word, which is clothing. But the floors on floors 1 to 3 here in the transcript appears first. So the order of the sentence in the transcript is different from the word order in the question. So beware of this type of trick in IELTS listening test. Our next trick is complex words. What is complex words? Sometimes there are words with silent letters or tricky spellings that can catch you off guard. So especially if you try to spell them too quickly. All right, this is another trick. And so remember not to misspell words because you will definitely lose mark. All right. And this is a kind of complex words that we have. For example, this is our question. Promotion goals focus on promotion goals. And this is our transcript. At the end of the transcript, the last line of this transcript, you can find promotion goals in different life situations. Emphasize achievement. Sometimes I see that students misspell this word, and they, for example, misspell the E in the middle of this word. So beware of this trick also. Misspelling complex words can definitely, you can definitely lose mark, right? So try to write correctly. And our last trick in listening test is combination. What is combination trick? You know, the test can combine any of these traps, making it even more confusing for you if you're not prepared. So it combines many of these tricks we practiced before. All right. Now, let's take a look at this question. Which 2 hobbies was Thor Heyerdahl very interested in as a youth? We should choose 2 hobbies. And let's take a look at our transcript here. Right, well, for our presentation, shall I start with the early life of Thor Heyerdahl? Sure, why don't you begin with describing the type of boy he was, especially his passion for collecting things. Collecting things. This is, let's say, our one. And Victor says, that's right. He had his own little museums, and I think it's unusual for children to develop their own values and not join in their parents' hobbies. I'm thinking of now Heyerdahl wouldn't go hunting with his dad, for example. And this hunting is the exact language trick as we practiced before. So when students hear hunting, so they choose it. But we should wait for Olivia's response too. Yeah, he preferred to learn about nature by listening to his mother read to him. Again, this is the exact language trick. And quite early on, he knew he wanted to become an explorer when he grew up. That came from his camping trips. Again, this is the exact language trick, but this is not the correct answer. He went on in Norway, I think. And Victor says, no, this is modification trick. So whatever we heard before, it is modified here. It was climbing that he spent his time on as a young man. All right, it was climbing. So the correct answer is climbing and collecting. Sometimes, as I said, this combination trick is a little bit of a trick, of a challenge for students, for IELTS candidates, because some of the tricks we practice early on would be combined here to make the test more challenging. So these are the 8 common tricks that students face in answering IELTS listening tests. For the next parts, I'm going to focus more on different types of questions in IELTS reading, and we will just take a look at each question using these tricks we learned today, and also some techniques that we can find the answers much better. So stay with me, stay tuned, and don't miss our next episodes because they're going to be very helpful. Until next time, enjoy your time. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.